Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
I can hear you loud and clear, Coach Jay. Happy,
What day is it, right? Happy
what
Tuesday.
day is it again? Tuesday?
Happy Tuesday.
Yeah, it was a
Tuesday.
long day.
It's been a long month this week.
Yes, yes.
Loud and clear from Coach Vince, Andrew, confirmations as well. Thank you, thank you. Welcome everyone to At the Buzz Hour Market Recap. If this is your first time here, I'm Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. The goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risks. If this is our first time meeting, Coach Jay, been a Topstep performance coach since June of 2023, been in the futures markets for the past 6 years and trading for the past 13, and that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep since April of 2023 as a performance coach. I've also been involved in the futures industry for 4 decades. For the last 25 exclusively trading, and I'm here to share some experiences, some wisdom, and perhaps help you become a better trader.
Awesome. Yeah, Andrew, I saw that. For whatever reason, DMs are not working in Discord right now. So if you have any questions for us, send them in the chat. We'll do our best at catching all of them. But our mode of communication is down for now. So maybe we'll send some smoke signals if we can. Let us know in the chat how you did today. Were you up on the day, down on the day? Maybe you didn't trade today. Are you still navigating this new environment that we're in? We'll talk about it a little bit and how we might be able to. But let us know in the chat. We'll look through any of the news that we might have had. We do know we had some earnings coming out. We also had this morning the JOLTS job openings report come in a little bit lower than expected, 7.6 million when the expectation was 8 million. And if we heard Chairman Powell the other day talk about the labor market, and he was pretty confident that it looked pretty strong. But missing on expectations, maybe their expectations were too high, or maybe the labor market is a little weaker than what we expected. Who knows there? But again, unplanned news is the news these days. We saw yesterday the delays in tariffs between the U.S. and Canada and Mexico. But then today we hear that I think the last headline that I saw, and I'm trying to keep up with all of them, but China was not willing to talk to Trump about tariffs. So we might just be going ahead with those. I will speak to Z at the appropriate time. I'm in no rush. That is from President Trump, one of our biggest trade partners there. So that is a big deal. Anything you got on the news front, Coach?
Nothing.
Gotcha.
I don't want to get confused with the news.
I'm with you. I am with you. It causes volatility. That's what we know. And we'll talk a little bit about it. Pretty choppy out there. I see some people mentioning that in the chat. One last comment on crypto. The feasibility of a Bitcoin reserve is being studied. That is from Trump's crypto czar. Is that how you say that? Czar. C and Z's don't show up in many words in the English language.
In English, in the Polish and Russian language, it's
right
predominant.
We do have some earnings out. We have the numbers here. We have AMD and Google. We got Google's numbers here. Revenues 96.47 billion. Estimate was 96.62, so a little bit of a miss there. Earnings per share $2.15 when the estimates were $2.13. So a little bit better there. Let's see what else we got here. They're better than estimates on their cloud revenue, or sorry, their ad revenue. Shout out to YouTube, where we're at right now. I don't think there are any ads on Topstep's page though. YouTube ad rev 10.47 billion when the estimate was 10.22 billion. And of course, these numbers are for what happened in Q4, but their forward guidance is really going to be what matters. And why do we talk about these? talking about some of the biggest companies in the world and their earnings going to affect the equity markets when we trade them. I am going to bring up, as soon as I can find the chart, a trading view chart so we can take a look at the instant reaction to, is it this one? Yep, it's this one. To Google's earnings. We saw the miss on the revenue number, the beat on the earnings per share. And again, how many times have we seen these moves get completely reversed once the market opens up tomorrow? But we can see initial reaction was a sell off. Google down about 25 bucks. Uh, about 20 bucks, about 20 bucks off of the high of the day. A little bit of a sell off there, but of course, we'll see what happens after the earnings, the call, the conference call, and when the markets open up tomorrow. We also had AMD report. I saw the AMD numbers somewhere, but now they disappeared. Give me 1 second. Let me find those. I'll switch over to the AMD chart. AMD kind of feels like uh, the
Yes, it
forgotten
does.
child in the chip space, right? Where it had a big name, but now everything is Taiwan Semiconductor. Everything is about Nvidia, and maybe not so much AMD. AMD numbers here: revenues 7.66 billion. Estimates were 7.54. Earnings per share came in line with expectations, $1.09. R&D expenses 1.71 billion. Estimate was 1.65 on their R&D. I don't know how much they have to spend, but maybe if they want to get back into the limelight where everyone's talking about them, uh, hopefully those R&D expenses are going towards something AI, right? That's where everyone is focused right now. And I think we have Nvidia earnings sometime next week, so those will be interesting to see as well. Uh, but we see the reaction here, right? Knee jerk reaction again, as it's always going to be with earnings. We did see after that Google report uh, somewhat of effect in the equities. The equities did sell off. Our accounts are locked for trading then, but we'll see what happens when Globex opens tomorrow. I don't see the numbers, but we did have Chipotle as well, I believe, reporting. And here we
Well,
go.
they didn't sell enough.
Didn't sell enough. We were talking about that, Coach, about Chipotle. It used to be a staple. I know when I was in college, they opened up a Chipotle maybe 5 minutes from where I lived in Buffalo. And the first day they opened, they were giving out free burritos, and I went 3 times that first day. I don't think I've been to Chipotle 3 times in the last 6 months.
Oh, they especially in a college campus, right?
Right,
Um, free food anyway.
free food. But let's
When I
get
was
into. Go ahead, Coach.
when I was at the board of trade on committees, if we wanted everyone to show up for a committee meeting, just purposely put free food, free lunch,
Yep,
and it would be, I don't care how wealthy they were. It's they're going to show up for
I'm gonna
free
get some
food.
free food. Yeah, 100%. Coach Vince said in the chat, Chipotle was the best stock I ever bought. Yeah, so you might not
Who's
agree with the
talking about
food, but you can't disagree with this chart. Look at, even before COVID, let's say before the COVID dump, we had Chipotle at, and this is split adjusted, but 20 bucks. We're up almost 300% from there. So feel how you want about the food. Uh, if you bought it in 2019, 2018, and you're sitting on it, you could buy a couple of burrito bowls if you wanted to.
with extra guacamole too.
Extra guac, extra guac. Just throw it on there. It doesn't matter. I got shares.
Yes.
Coach Vince said I bought it because
Right.
I like to eat it. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
hey, that's the investing strategy, right? If you like it, buy the stock and hold on to it. All right. Anything else on the news, Coach, before we get into the charts?
No, I'm good.
All right, sounds good. Let's switch back over to Topstep X. Get some of this stuff out of the way. If you guys do see any other headlines that pop up, let me know. But let's get into the charts. Let me switch this over to a quote board. What happened here? 35 different markets that we can trade with Topstep, not just the equities. To the downside today, we had heating oil down 1.75%, natural gas down 3.82%, and micro Bitcoin futures down 4.0%. To the upside, we had wheat futures up 1.94%, soybean meal up 3.33%, and lean hogs up 3.91% for our biggest percentage mover to the upside. To talk about our big four, NASDAQ up 0.98%, gold up 0.54%, the S&Ps up 0.49%, and crude oil up down 0.79% to round out our big four. I have a, let me move this out of the way. Move this to a 30-minute chart here on the NASDAQ. Here is last night's open. Tell me what you're seeing here, Coach.
Last night we had a nice sell. We broke it initially. I don't know if there was news or not, but if we frame out that first half hour, even the first 5 minutes, let's go. That's the half hour. We broke
Yep.
early. We made
Hold
new
on one
lows.
second. Hold on one second, Coach. I'm sorry. Just saw Andre in the chat. Oh, here they go. All right, let's do the exactly what you're doing here, Coach. We'll do it on the S&Ps. The reason I'm bringing this up, we got some thousand lot bids here on the S&Ps at 48 and 46. So I just want to watch these. But same trade here in the S&Ps, Coach. I have it framed out for you.
Yeah, we broke out. We made the high on the first minute. Never found a bid, and remember yesterday we closed on the highs on some late news.
Yep.
On light volume, couldn't handle the volume, rejected, and we had quite a nice little move to the downside. Was it London? I think made the low.
Yeah, this low. So this is actually midnight Eastern time, so 11 p.m. Central time. We made that low. I think so this low was made on the comments out of China that we were pretty much just saying we're not going to talk at all. That's where this low was made here. If we go down to a shorter time frame chart, we'll actually see that volume spike. Where is it? Yep, right around here.
Yeah, and it was and there was classic volume spike on a half hour. Frame that out, and we had on the half hour bar. We had a classic J trade. We might even had it on this one here. There.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow, that really held the rest of the day.
yeah, that was, and that's
If you
what
look at it, if you look at it that way, that VWAP from that spike held every dip today.
it got bought.
Yep.
Whoever did, I don't know, but it was classic. There was that in the half hour. It was big volume. Just stop. Must you could just say stops. Whatever it is, it's selling. Found a level. Interesting. That level was halfway through the opening bar, I believe, on the day. That big candle got halfway in there. Whatever it was, it stopped. Never made new lows, and we took off from there. Interestingly, it was like the reverse happened on the opening this morning on a 3 minute from this morning's opening.
Wow.
We went early, and that was right off the highs of that low, that news candle. And it was a nice low risk trade. I think, and then it slowed down for the rest of it. It was not it was not convinced. I would say not convinced buying, but it was bought on sale.
Right.
Interestingly, today's highs, yesterday's highs, fill the Sunday night gap. We can't close over that.
Yep.
We're playing at the 200 bar moving average and the 200. Um, and it's balance. When we basically after that first half an hour,
That was
we
it.
just ground.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's kind of, we've seen some traders talk about, it's been pretty choppy. Um, what we've seen over the last couple of sessions, at least, is there's a decent move in that first hour, maybe hour and a half of the New York session open, and then after that, the markets kind of range, and it seems like there has to be a headline or some type of news to even get us going a little bit. I was doing a session with the VIPs, and actually, we were on that VIP coaching call, that internal call, where we saw all this volume come in, random volume spike here, and you know, decent trade opportunity here. We talked to some of the VIPs about this after we got off of that call. But seeing, how do we trade some of these random volume spikes? Uh, Maybe if you're not in a trade, uh, for me, I think I'm reserving a couple of my trades for the day just to look for opportunities like this where a random headline may give us some volatility. I'm not looking for a huge trade, right? I'm not looking for 100 points in the Nasdaq or 50 points in the S&Ps from this. If it gives it to me, great. But if we get a volume spike like this, the markets are going to react. Outside of that, I'm trying to stay out of a lot of this indecisiveness here. Um, where a candle like this might cause some uncertainty. This is the markets reacting to something. But for me, this is giving me the potential for volume to continue. Now, if it doesn't, I'm going to stay out of, I'm take my profits and get out of the trade, right? But this volume spike here gives me an opportunity to get into the markets, right? Here's a 16-point move. Uh, if I capture 50% of that, 40% of that, that could be it for the day. But then after that, no follow through. That volume never left, VWAP never left the range. We go back into range bound environment. Uh, if I'm not catching this initial move, coach, I think it's almost a little bit better to just be patient and wait for one of those volume spikes to come in, because everything else feels, at least for my strategy, kind of like a guess. I don't know how you feel about that.
yeah, I've I've changed a bit for equities. I want to
Yep.
get in early. It's the least amount of risk. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong early. If I'm right, I can add to it. But it's without that. I mean, you get that spike, and it seems to me that the market's wary of is getting tired of the
Go ahead and say it.
you
Go ahead
sneak
and
it
say it.
the tweets. It's just
Yeah.
like who's if you're larger monies, it's not going to lay it out there to get picked off. So one of the ways market makers react is just you've heard me preaching about it is pare down. They are not putting big money on the line to get picked off.
Right.
And I think you see it early in the day versus later in the day. That's when you see it. I'm like, they're not going to sit there and participate with big volume. They probably got their eyes ripped out last week. It's a function of volatility.
Right.
These markets are still volatile.
Yes, they are. I know the guys on fast markets were looking for a short. And they ultimately had the right idea, maybe not early on where we had a rally, but then looking for that short up here, it, you know, it's the right idea. But to me, at least the feeling that I'm getting is timing and location matter a lot more than it had in the past, right? Especially if I'm looking for one of these counter trend moves, right? If I could get in this trend, ideally, yeah, that's a great trade. But Nick Fortick just said he finally caught the short in this move as well. Here it is in the Nasdaq, same thing. We get a spike of volume. There's an opportunity. This here is a 80-point move. I'm pretty sure 70-point move in the Nasdaq in 24 minutes. And a lot of times we might look at it and say, oh, you have a 5-minute average, a 10-minute average on your trades. We are day trading, right? And when conditions allow for it on a trade like this, if I catch this trend, could I be in for an hour? Maybe, but the market's moving in my favor the entire hour, right? If you caught any of that buy for the most part. Um, this trade here, although you might not be exposed to the markets for very long, took 3 hours to wait for the market to actually agree with that and move in your favor. So what I'm saying basically is don't feel like you're in a rush to click the button to make a decision. Uh, Wait for the market to present a setup to you and take it from there.
We were talking about that in the green room before we started.
Yep.
Having no position is a position. Once again, I'll go on my pulpit and preach. You execute your plan. And sometimes we get bored
Yep.
or we get uneasy that I'm not seeing a setup, but I gotta make money.
Right.
Well, that usually gets us into trouble. I, at least me. I don't know about you, but
Oh yeah.
there's no there's no direction in what I'm doing. I'm just putting it on, and it usually sets off tilt. So, not having a position, like I said, it can be a very good position.
Yep.
Um, so that's where the discipline comes in. Um, and I tell you what, some of the commodities are moving better right now than the equities.
Well, and we'll take a look at those. Let's spend some time on those. I do want to answer a comment from Paul H. Uh, and his name just sticks out because the end of his name is hit the like. So make sure you do that too. Make sure you hit that like button.
Yes.
But Paul said, he's been trying to anticipate this move, and you're going to get caught up in that. I think what I'm really looking for with this trade, I'm not going to anticipate. So you could probably ask, why not use this candle? Right? It's above the average. Just what I'm doing with these trades is I'm looking for something that is 2x, 3x the volume average at the time. Right. We know what normal daily patterns look like as far as volume goes in the equities. It's going to be very high volume in the beginning. After that first hour or so, we're going to get low volume. So anything in this low volume period uh, that might help me anticipate a trade like this has to be dramatic, right? It almost has to be, it has to look like that opening hour volume, right? This one is like a little bit above the average. It's just not drastic enough. It doesn't stick out, right? If I'm looking at this chart here, this one isn't very obvious, and it's a little bit of discretion. And are you going to get caught up in some, potential false breakouts? 100%, it's going to happen, but that just feels different.
But it is different, right?
Right.
You it's action.
Right.
Um, what results of it, we're
We don't
uncertain,
know.
but we have a plan. Like we said, to me, I'd like to look at that. It's and see if it fails.
Right.
And it's got to fail quick. And here, me, I would have looked for a buy. I don't really, really had no urgency, but you hit it. Was that the Jolts number?
This wasn't Jolts. This was I think this was uh China comments. So Jolts is here. So perfect example, coach. So here's Jolts, right? Here's Jolts, 10 a.m. Eastern time. This candle, which was unplanned news, is higher volume than that Jolts response, right? Anytime you're watching Top Step TV and you hear everybody say, "Oh, ho, what just happened?" That's what that candle usually looks like, where it just happens out of nowhere, right? Where everyone's maybe talking about, hey, these markets are very choppy, whatever it is, and then the tune changes, right? Speaking of volume, coach, you said when the pits were busy, the literal volume of people yelling out orders was a lot louder. You hear it on Top Step TV also, right? Where Andre is just like all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, big selling just came in into the Nasdaq. It's a quick trade. It may not end up being the trend for the day, but for me, at least, I feel like I can put risk behind that trade for a quick opportunity, taking advantage of that volatility, looking for a 2 to 1 on a short time frame. right? I'm not looking for this to be a 100-point move. I might be looking for I take a short at 50% of the candle, and my target is the low of the candle because I don't know whether or not that volatility is going to continue, right? It caused the markets to shake up a little bit. It's a quick opportunity for a trade. I'm not going to have really wide risk on it, and just taking it as an opportunity, uh, and going from there. Anything else you got on that, Coach?
That's it.
Awesome. All right. Let's so you said the commodities have been moving. Maybe we have some traders that are getting a little bit tired of the equities right now for good reason. We see it in the order book, right? It's not just you. The order books have been thin. Um, I think every day for the past week and a half, if I've looked at the Nasdaq depth of market, there's been anywhere between a 2 and 16 tick spread, um, which could be tough to trade. You might not even be looking at the depth of market, but what that's saying is the Jim Dalton said it last week. The adults are not at the table. The bigger size is not out there trading. Even some of the bigger orders that we've seen in the S&Ps, right? They get put out there. They're not letting those orders fill. They're pulling a lot of them. So give us a commodity market, Coach, that you've looked at that maybe a little bit, I don't want to say easier, but a little bit more comfortable to trade right now.
Well, okay. First, I'll corn pick instead of cherry pick.
Huh.
Um, let's look at the corn. We've had a correction. Um, if we let's start at the daily. Okay, we've had that. We talked about this beginning of the year. Break it out on a daily 200. To me, it was a great opportunity for a buy side.
Yep.
Um, so in the last few days, we'll go back to the half hour. Um, so the last 2 days we had this sharp correction. Um, now we're talking about volume. So the half hour was we come in from last night. We went sideways, found some balance. Um, now I'm looking to buy it when the day comes in. Night is not is in corn isn't as important.
Gotcha.
But if we go to let's go to a 3 minute.
Hmm. Now, when you say the day comes in, Coach, we know we have that weird hour. Are you looking at
Yeah,
that, or are you looking at 8:30 Central?
8:30.
8:30.
8:30.
Perfect.
Let's frame that out. And that's one of our urgency trades. Now, I didn't this is more technical.
Hmm.
So we've got that first 3 minutes. What did we get? We got big buying. It's pure of a buying volume. With no correction, we leave the range, and VWAP leaves the range early and well-defined trade. Um, again, we go back to VWAP, bounce, get about 2-3 cents. Um, and with corn, there's no big head. The only big headline that's going to change it in the day is WASD, World
Right.
Agricultural Supply and Demand Equation. Just if you're going to trade, you just know that's not that day. It's usually the end of the month.
It's on a
Um,
Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern time, usually at the
yeah,
end of the month, like you said. Yep.
but there's a nice up, and you could do 2 or 3 corn. I mean, let's look at the average true range in that 3 minute.
Six
When
cents.
we 6 cents, what was it overnight?
Uh, 2 cents.
Two
Three
cents.
cents.
Okay, it's $150. 3 ticks, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
3 ticks is $37.50. 3 ticks. So you can do multiples, but also I like this trade because we had the correction. We even had it yesterday. If we
Yeah.
look at the first 3 minutes yesterday,
But Coach Paul, corn is boring. Corn is not sexy.
no, it's not.
So
Money is though. Profits are.
So
Um,
one thing
wow.
that I won't forget that you told me about trading corn, and you talked about the time, and that's why I asked you about the time specifically. You know, are you looking at what happens overnight and any of that stuff? Um, I'll censor it, but Coach Paul and I do almost one-on-one coaching sessions after we get off of here. A lot of times we were talking about corn, and he said corn doesn't f around. They're not playing games, right? They get in, they get out, and they get their business done. It's not a game. Um, And that's what we're seeing here, right? Is it always going to present a great trade opportunity? It's not. But this is an hour in corn where the move was pretty defined. And yes, today in the Nasdaq we did get a very similar trade,
Yeah.
right? In the S&Ps we got a very similar trade as well. But what we also hear is that traders might be missing those trades because of the anxiety of, hey, we could get a tweet at any moment and it destroys everything.
Yeah. The
Can anyone see a
corn,
tweet happen here? I don't know what this is right here, but
that's a big
have a
buyer.
stop. There you go. Have a stop.
Yeah, so, a little more stability. There's more. The bottom line is opportunity.
Yep.
My, m- I'm a trend trader. I'm just looking for a place that has a trend that gives me an opportunity to get in the trend in the short term.
Right.
So these corn has been a classic. The next one that's coming up is soybeans, and I'm gonna warn you now: the soybeans are the Nasdaq of the grain world. So s- if you're going to trade it, th- it moves. So let's begin. Where's that 3 minute?
There it is. It's right here.
Yeah. Um, Now big volume never makes a new low. Look at the curl and the VWAP. We break out of the range, and that's a pretty big move. I think it was,
In soybeans, yeah, that's a huge move. That's it's almost 2%. Uh
yeah, what was how many points? I think it was 18.
21.
It's $1,000 move.
Hmm.
This would be March soybeans. Um, but let's look at the daily because it's we've been talking. Corn did it in beginning of January or end of December. If we look at the daily and look at the 200-day moving average,
200 moving average. I'm not gonna have it on this chart.
all right, yeah, we settled above it for the first
Okay.
time. In I'll tell you, look at my chart. Once
What's your opinions on bonds?
bonds are kind of choppy. Let's go through it. Yeah, if this is the first time the soybeans have settled above the 200 since in 1 year, since January of 2024.
Hmm.
Um, that's 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 something to watch. That's a green flag for fund buying. And if funds come in and begin to buy, price doesn't matter.
Hmm.
So I'm just looking to get behind the shark, right, coach?
Yeah,
In
right. Don't
front of
swim in front
them.
of them.
So good opportunity, decent market.
Coach, I'm going to ask you a question just because it was asked in the chat. I know you may not be looking at it from a fundamental perspective, maybe a Coach Hoop question, who's doing the session right after us. But could China tariffs hurt soybeans, hurt the soybeans
Oh,
market?
absolutely. Um, they could just, wow, that's a really good question. Yeah, they can. Um, it's funny, the Chinese used to was big news in the grains. I know this. They've been around, that culture's been around longer than we have. They
Right.
know how to trade. They they would make an announcement they were going to buy 5 million tons of soybeans and make an announcement and filter through, and everybody would buy soybeans. And then they would just go, well, we're going to cancel them. We're only going to go 2 million. Then the market would break and then they'd buy their 5 million eventually. Yeah, they could just say, and we're just going to buy it for elsewhere. But the trick is, and these are fundamentals, to buy it from Brazil. Now, Brazil is in their spring and the crop is just getting going and there's uncertainty if there's any weather factor. If there's a weather factor, it takes away that cancel of contracts that the Chinese could pull because they need the meal, the beans. So that's why it's getting bought. It's been bought for a while, but
Mm,
fundamentally, if there's any problem in Brazil, we'll go vertical.
hmm,
Um,
good to know.
yeah, because that takes away they could say no, we're going to buy more from Brazil, and Brazil doesn't have it. And where are you going to go? It's not. It's actually Brazil produces more than the U.S. now, I believe.
Oh wow. We got
So
Sabadia in the
interesting
chat
times.
saying, I trade corn, wheat, soybeans, 30-year bonds, and did very well. It's helping me with patience and not FOMO into trades. Uh, there you go. There you go. There are other markets out there. We'll mention them every once in a while. We're not going to go through everything, right? We're not going to go through all 35 markets. We have them up here almost more for just conversation pieces than anything. Uh, if I find myself, on a Mexican, I mean, maybe not the Mexican peso right now with all the tariff talks, but if I find myself trading, uh, I don't know, soybean oil or micro Ethereum futures, it might just be a better call to walk away from the desk.
Yeah,
Uh, have a couple, maybe have one market in each sector that you look at for a potential trade, right? Have one metal, right? You don't need to look at silver, platinum, gold, palladium, copper, uh, you know,
palladium. Yeah,
right, Chuck E. Cheese coins. You don't need to look at all of them. Just pick one for each market, and then for each sector, and then go from there. Right, one equity, maybe one or two. One equity, one commodity, one agricultural product, and go from there. You do not need to scan through each one of those because then you're just gonna, like Andre said it the other day. I rewatched that segment, Andre, if you're still here. But yesterday he's like, are you just chasing squirrels at a point? At a point, you are, right? I have to be honest about that. At a point, you are. Um, but if you pick one in each sector, then you can say, hey, the equities aren't giving me an opportunity. Maybe it's in the ags. Um,
yeah, and I would also, like you said, if you have a trading plan, and maybe you're trading, like just maybe look for three different places. And diversifying risk is a magical thing. Big
right.
money does it. It's so you know if you're having trouble with the volatility in one place, maybe just pare down and do a couple micros in a couple different places. But look for your plan, whatever your plan is. Look for that structure in a couple different. Doesn't mean you have to take them, but what I find out, I force trades less. Like if I'm
Mm,
looking at one place, I'm like, oh man, well, I got to do something, right?
right.
I think that your patience. I'm not the most patient. I
I'm
know
not
that
either.
about myself.
I just play a patient
Uh,
guy on TV.
yeah, I just so having a couple different options in different contracts, it's not a bad idea. It doesn't mean you have to trade all three, but you might see something like, I know this pattern. Then I just frame out my risk. Is this Bitcoin?
This is physical Bitcoin, aka gold. Uh, here is here's the opening range trade in gold. Gold opens up at 7:20 Central Time. I know the team on the opening call. I think they might have taken the long and then got out of it. But really nice trade here. We talk about the metals. Can we look at silver? Can we look at this? Can we look at that? Gold is presenting some really good trading opportunities right now. Um, if it's too big of a contract, trade micro gold, right? The reason I don't bring up silver often is because I don't suggest many people trade silver with Topstep accounts. Uh, it's too big of a contract. We're going to suggest trading the micros, but then you're going to go off and do your own thing and trade the $25 a tick contract. Trade gold, trade micro gold. And if you want to trade silver, but
But
we're
trade
not going to talk
micro
too much about
silver,
trade
I
micro
just I
silver.
don't I haven't watched it much.
Same here.
But the big contract, I'm just going to be blunt. You can't afford it. It's $50 a penny.
Right.
Uh, a penny. It moves 10 pennies at a shot. Um, yeah, gold is gold is crazy. I mean, even that buy right there.
Yeah.
How many times it just once the buying stops, it's it just falters. Like right, if you don't pick it clean, I don't know. I find that hard. But
Yeah.
going back to what we were talking earlier in the week and last week, is 2 to 1 is a really good trade in a day trade.
Uh,
It really is.
and
Don't
you got that pretty quick here. All right. You got
Yeah, right
15
there.
minutes in a trade. Yeah, you got a 2 to 1. Could
two
be
to
done
one
for the
if
day.
you bought
15
it.
minutes.
If you sold it, all right. If you risk 1 unit, you survive. But if you do too much and don't allow yourself to be wrong, you won't survive.
Right.
So, boy, look at that 2 to 1. There was another 2 to 1.
Yeah, you got a couple of them. Got a couple of them. You know what? Let's just take a look at the silver chart. Why not? We look at everything else. Uh, Pretty much the same trade. Pretty much the same trade here. Again, and this is why we're saying, pick a sector and then whatever market in that sector you want to trade that one. They're not always going to move like this, right? You might look at a platinum chart and we'll go through them. Actually, I'm gonna rebuild my layout to have the 4 markets in each sector again, just so we have an idea. Silver was the same trade as gold, right? Sometimes these are going to move together. Uh, Platinum, let's take a look. Platinum today was the same trade. Not always, right? Sometimes gold is going to move and these other uh, metal markets aren't. But right now, all of the metals seem to be moving, uh, providing some decent ranges. I do like platinum when it decides to move. It can be a pretty consolidated market a lot of the time. I learned that last year. But when it wants to move, it can really move.
And someone brought up our old favorite we haven't talked about too much lately,
What's that?
natural gas,
Today
the
it was the
widow
number
maker.
the number 2 percentage mover to the downside. Let's take a look at what we got here. Here's last night's open. Here's our volume open. We'll call it that, where we actually saw a spike in volume. Oops, wrong anchor. Let's make that red. Yeah, that's a really nice sell-off. Almost closed the Sunday gap. Got about halfway through it. Filibuster says I shorted it last night. That's a great trade.
Here's another. Put an anchor, a VWAP to Sunday night's first candle.
What's this white line here, Coach? Where did that come from?
It came from heaven. That's all I gotta say.
Here we go. Anchor VWAP from Sunday's open.
um, in Brian Shannon's book, he suggests doing that. Now, for me, I would suggest if that VWAP closes below that, uh, no, if the VWAP closes below that first candle, it's going to tumble hard. So tonight, it has that chance to do it
Gotcha.
because we're going to open. If it opens unchanged, where's it going to go? It means it's accepted or rejected these higher prices, probably a better way to say this. And then we can really go fill that gap.
Yep.
We enter the gap. For all technicians, filling the gap is hitting the settlement of the candle. Now that's a small candle, so most likely it's going to hit that settlement. But tonight, that is putting it down right now. Thank you for bringing up natural gas.
Oh yeah, there we go. Thank you to the chat. Filibuster brought it up, and great trade you had here. Nice sell last night. Any other markets we want to talk about? We got about 15 minutes left. If there are any questions in the chat, please throw those over as well. I think our smoke signals are coming through. So if you guys have any questions, let us know.
Hey, Bitcoin. Someone asked about Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. Here we go. Digital gold. Here's last night's open. Wow.
Yeah. Let's look at the 5-minute from last night.
5-minute chart. Here we go. First 5 minutes right there.
Now, what can we infer?
It was
opened,
sold.
it was sold, and the sellers didn't, that selling didn't change. And I'll go back why I really focus on this trade. I grew up in the trading pits.
Mm.
Now, in the trading pits, there was no night session. There was no, it was regimented. I'll just start grains. It was 9:30 to 1:15 was the greatest hours of all time. Maybe hogs was about 10 minutes less.
That's better than teacher's hours.
Oh man. Yeah. When you're young, it got me in a little trouble.
Sure.
You're in the bar at 1:30. Yeah. Um, just so, but what I say is all the orders had to come in at those between those times. It was no overnight balance. They came, and that first minute was extremely important because that was pent up volume. Using this as a 5-minute bar. So the first 5 minutes, the market's open. If we just look at that and ignore anything before that, what's happening here in this first 5 minutes? We have a candle. That's a selling candle. We attach VWAP. We have high volume selling. Right? The highest volume is the first 5 minutes. It's selling, and we're leaving the range pretty quickly. Now, just looking at that, do you want to buy it or sell it? You want to go with? To me, I want to go with the flow.
Yeah. Ideally. I really like what you're saying here, coach, because a lot of times this might go against conventional wisdom. A lot of times we're told to look left. But what we just said was, who cares what happens to the left? On the left. What's happening now?
Yeah. Okay, let's say you looked left and said, "I don't want to sell this. It's rising."
Right.
Okay, give me a shot where the buyers have control. There's short term above VWAP, but
maybe you buy here at this support down here, but that was support
yeah, but
yesterday.
it was
What
closed.
happens
That was
today?
yesterday. It's a
Right.
brand new day, and we're day traders, and we're not taking positions. We have a
Just take
shorter
it.
time period.
Man, that's such a great point.
It's here. And then figure out why I bring that up. We figure out if traders can figure out the imbalance off the opening. The locals, when I'm saying the locals, they they'll press it. So in this case, the locals would have gotten an imbalance of selling. They're holding the imbalance. They know it. They're not there to lose money. They got some information. So what they're going to do is they're going to cut their bids off and hit all the bids immediately because it's not working for them. As they do that, what we were ticking down. Now, if paper comes in or more customers come in to sell, they're going to add to that imbalance. And that's when it picks up steam and falls. Where just the bad traders who picked up the imbalance, hoping it's going to go higher, they got to get out. Um, so that's why I don't. That's why I look at the first 5 minutes, 3 minutes of a trading day. It's doesn't always if that VWAP was sideways
Look somewhere else.
or we stayed in the range of the first 5 minutes. All right, what's going to happen to VWAP? There's no interest. It's a balanced market.
Right.
Balanced markets aren't for me. I'm looking for movement. So, wow, we just pulled this out on. Yeah. By the way,
Yeah.
we're under the 200 bar moving average in a half hour at least.
There we go. There we go. We got it on a half hour.
Oh,
Oh, whoa. Well, would you look at that? Would you look at that, chat? The high of the day, the high of that 3-minute candle, or 30-minute candle, was the 200 moving average. Did you know
okay.
that before I pulled this up?
No, I knew we were under it. I didn't know we were testing it.
Right.
I'm not. I was very busy in a few other markets.
Yeah.
Yeah. So once again,
Billy in the chat says they can't keep getting away with this. They're going to keep getting away with it, right? It's now. So here's the deal, right? And again, anything we talk about here is not for investment or trading advice. It is educational purposes only, for educational purposes only. But if they keep getting away with this, how many times do you see it before you put risk behind it?
we're here to take good risks.
They're running the play right in front of your face. How many times do you see it before you put risk behind it? Measured risk, right? Am I just going to go blind and put everything I got on this trade? No, because there's a probability that this doesn't work out. But at what point do we see something long enough where we say, okay, I'm willing to put risk behind that? And that's what we're looking for, right? We're not looking for to be an economist to know how, you know, X, Y, and Z is going to affect the markets. Maybe you are, but in the short time frame that we're looking to be in the markets for day trading, your investing accounts, your buy and holds. I bought some Nvidia this week that I'm happy about, and hopefully I'm going to be happy about 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now. Uh, Different story there, right? I need to pay attention to what's going on in the broader scope of the world, but for a day trade, I'm looking for this because this I can repeat and put risk behind and take my 2 to 1, take a quick opportunity where I don't have to guess. Uh,
Boy, like I said, I began this conversation with just looking at the opening 5 minutes.
right.
Now that's why locals react, or the locals were the market makers. They react and they get information and they like this. I didn't know it was bouncing against the 200. It's fine. What
They
I'm
told you it
saying is
was.
I have a short period of time here.
Yep.
It gives me an edge. And um, and that's it. That's all I got to say.
That's all I gotta say about that. Problem is that it is also a setup for a trade to the other side for the ledge to break to the upside. James, that's a great point.
Yep.
This could also be a trade. Okay, that is a great point there. It's a trade setup for the other side. If it breaks it, then we take the long side. Now, if you took that long Did it confirm that it broke it, or did you preempt it? Right? And that's, I think, where a lot of us get caught up, where we might not be saying take the short right at that 200 moving average, but that 200 moving average is telling you that this is a signal, right? Signal confirmation. That's how I like to think about trades, at least the good ones. I take the shitty ones. I don't know what signal, mixed signals on all the bad ones, but on the good ones, it's signal confirmation, right? Those volume trades that we talked about earlier with the Nasdaq, the signal was that there was volume that came in. The confirmation was 50% of that volume held, so I can take a short there, right? Same thing here. Signal rejecting at the 200 moving average. Confirmation on a shorter time frame, there are no buyers in this, and I can take it to sell it, right? You're completely right, because at some point the trade is, hey, we broke above that 200 moving average, catch it. But if that's going to happen, and with how big of a move we normally see after that moving average cross, do we need to be in at the beginning of the move, right? Surfing analogy. Surfers are not catching the beginning of that wave,
The good point.
right? They're catching the middle to the end of it, because there's a whole lot that happens before that wave even gets to you as a surfer. Um,
And there's also they look for structure. If you've
right,
ever surfed, they look. That's why Malibu or these big surfing beaches have certain structure underneath it that creates those waves. This is the same kind of philosophy. Like in that trade, if it goes above the 200 and it closes, I'm
right.
out. I don't. I have no problem. Matter of fact, I had to do that a couple times today in the S&P. No problem. I don't have to be right. I have to cut my losses. This helps me cut losses, let winners ride. I mean, it's it in its essence, that's what we have to do.
Yep.
And it sounds so damn easy. But we talk about and whatever it is, you look for a place that you can lean, that you can take some risk with a quick out if you're wrong.
We got a couple questions here, Coach. Let's get these answered. Question from Shubham. I always feel very hesitant to trade overnight markets, not trusting the price action. Any advice for this? Throw that
I
one to
don't
you,
know what
Coach.
I don't know what your trading plan is.
Hmm.
Um, so if it doesn't, you don't trust the price action, is the price action not working with your trading plan? That's what I would look at, or if you need more volume. Um, but if your trading plan works, it should work at night or day. It's just a matter of higher or lower profit potential. The average true ranges in the overnight are smaller. And that's because U.S. volume. But if you're
Right.
trading European contracts, it's a different story. Um, this, what is it, that the sun never sets; it's just the Earth moves.
Yeah.
So it's true, right? But
That's a good point.
the bottom line is, if you don't trust it, don't trade it. What if you were interested in doing night sessions? Trade in on a practice account and see what it is that you need. And if it doesn't work, you don't have to. If it's working during the day, don't trade it. But I feel there's opportunity, and for especially people who are working in the U.S. during the day and are looking for opportunity. I mean, there are opportunities at night, um, but don't force yourself.
Right.
Test it. If you don't see it and you're not comfortable, there's the flag.
Don't trade it.
Don't trade it.
I also asked Shubham, just a follow up to that question. Do you also trade the New York session? The answer was yes. Find some time to get off the charts. And maybe the overnight is exactly that, right? Maybe you're trying to force the ocean to give you a wave and it's never going to give you one for your setup at that time. Don't got to trade all the time. Um, Coach, I haven't heard you say it in a little while, but trade less, make more uh, is a great slogan. Because a lot of times we look at the charts and every time we look at them is an opportunity to make money. but we neglect the fact that that's also an opportunity to lose money. Um, and if you're not in the right mindset, I don't have the Tyson video queued up, but if you're not in the right mindset, and you're
That's
blind
my
to it, you
favorite.
might get knocked out. One more question here from Joel. I think I answered the question yesterday, Joel. But are there any indicators that tell you something about price proactively instead of one being reactive to price action? Uh, I know a lot of people talk about volume being a lagging or talk about lagging indicators. To me, volume is the most real time indicator that you could use. Um, Especially if you're looking at something like time and sales, which I don't suggest everyone do because there's a lot of noise. But I don't know that I need to be proactive when there's volume. I'll go back to that Nasdaq example. Sometimes I feel like trying to be proactive. I'll go back to the Coach Paul recommended that hunting book. Coach, what was the name of the book?
Um, you just threw me off.
The Hunter Warrior.
Dutch Warrior.
Right. So if I'm a hunter, I want to have a general idea about my prey, right? I want to know their patterns. I want to know when they have the potential to kind of walk right through my scope so I can hunt, right? If I'm hunting for deer, I'm not going to sit in a perch for 24 hours because a lot of that time they're not going to be moving, right? So I'm going to study their patterns and then I want to be around when they're going to move, right? When there's an opportunity there. So for me, for volume, if I want to be proactive, I'm going to look at a chart and look at if I'm reading volume, look at a chart and see what time most of the volume is normally happening, right? And when it's quiet. During these times, this hour here, can some random spike of volume happen? Sure. But if I'm a hunter and I know this is my time to take a nap because the deer are going to be coming later, if I hear some rustling in the bushes, I can't just wake up and start shooting because I might not hit a deer. I might hit something else.
You might hit your brother.
You
Just-
you
and that
might hit something
happens, by
else.
the way.
Right. So I want to know to a high probability that something is going to happen. And for me, with volume, that's timing, right? So that's the first hour to an hour and a half of the New York session open. And then there is, about an hour to an hour and a half period of when it gets quiet. You hear it on Topstep TV, the markets are starting to range. And if you're a range bound trader, that might be the time you want to start trading, right? Because look at this. This is a beautiful range here for a range bound trader. We don't talk about it enough, but there's a couple of points to be made there. But if I'm looking for volume and looking for momentum, I have to be around when it's higher likelihood that that volume and momentum is going to happen. After lunchtime, usually 1 p.m. Eastern time, we know today in this time that it can happen at any time, right? The drop of a tweet or a comment. So what I do, I just have audio cues, right? I showed you guys I use Quantower. I have an audio cue that says, hey, a certain amount of volume traded in a certain amount of time, go look at your charts. Otherwise, I once the volume dies out here, I don't want to be around because I'm going to convince myself to take a trade that does not fit my personal playbook. Um, I
Great
think
point,
we
Coach.
got to all the questions, Coach. You got anything before we go?
Um, no, it's just trade your plan. Plan your trade. If you don't have a plan, develop one. That's why you're here. Um, and you just mentioned something, you mentioned two words, reactive or proactive.
Hmm.
Um, I don't, you, we have to get some information and let it come to us.
Yep.
We're not making markets and we don't have to be there. If you are in a fund manager in equities, if you're an end user in commodities, if you're a grower in commodities, you have to be involved whether you like it or not. So measuring and reacting are basically all we can do. Otherwise, I believe we're predicting.
Yep.
Um, at least for me, uh, prediction doesn't give me really good information. I don't live in the future.
Right.
I don't live in the past. I live right now so I can make decisions good decisions with good risk management that I can repeat, that I can lose a reasonable amount of money to make more than a reasonable amount of money. So that's why I always preach, create a plan that you can execute. What that is risk management, and that's all I have for today.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach. Thank you all for another great session. If you haven't done so already, hit that like button. We are going to go ahead and get out of here, but we want to thank everybody for joining. I'll be on Fast Markets tomorrow, trading with, I believe, Mohammed, Hoag, and Andre. Let's get some trades in that house account. We'll get it back on the right track. If the market presents opportunity, if it doesn't, we'll be patient and let it go from there. Um, I'm going to be a little bit proactive here and say that we're probably going to get a comment out of the White House tomorrow that's going to move the markets, and I'm going to try to trade it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you all tomorrow. Trade well, manage your risk, and we'll see you then. Bye.
All right. Bye.